A warm welcome back to the Forensic Detailing channel. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm rough as a badger's arse this morning. This is a brilliant video, right? You're gonna like this one. This is a brilliant video. Someone asked me, John, can you do a video on what the bare minimum chemicals are that you need to detail a car? And I thought, well, I've kind of done that, but I haven't really done it with the bare minimum. The bare minimum. How few chemicals can you get it down to? And that's what we're doing in this video. And the aim is really to give you how few chemicals and things you need without compromise, so you've effectively got the ability to do everything. No, I'm saying that slightly cautiously because there's gonna be compromise, and I want you to chirp in with whether or not you think this is viable, okay? So to get my head around how to answer this question, I always break it down into wash, decon, polishing, protecting, and then you could have accessories bolted onto the side, okay? So let's just get started. To do this, to be able to detail a car, you need a pressure washer and you need a vacuum cleaner. And I'm not going to cover what that is. It could be the cheapest one. It could be a Karcher K2, or it could be a really expensive pressure washer. But you need a pressure washer. And you need a vacuum cleaner, and ideally a vacuum cleaner that can cope with sucking up water, a wet one, you know, that's tolerant to sucking up water, as well as a dry one that just sucks it all in into one canister with no bag, and you tip it all out, like that old Titan that I had, you know. So you need a pressure washer and a vacuum cleaner, okay? Next up, washing a car, okay? You can do it with one chemical. You can do all of your car washing with one chemical detergent. Some of you won't like that thing, and I get it. I don't like it either. That chemical detergent would be an all-purpose cleaner. So this is Surfex HD, but it could be really, in essence, any all-purpose cleaner. You can use an all-purpose cleaner to pre-wash your car. So you would spray it all over the car and pressure wash it off. No snow foam, Lance, because we're doing bare minimum. So you just spray it over the car. You need a trigger sprayer. Jet wash it off before you start. And Surfex HD can function really well as a pre-wash at around about 2% maybe. You can maybe even go a bit higher if it's filthy, or as low as maybe 1% or something. 1 to 2% is a pre-wash. Blast it off. There you go. Surfex HD could then be used. You could pour 30 or 40 mil, maybe even less, maybe less, into a 10, 15 litre solution of water in a bucket and go and contact wash your car with it. Yes, it's a strong degreaser. It's not a mild, foamy kind of contact cleaning maintenance product, but you could still wash your car with it. It would put a bit more deg on, but it would do a very good job of cleaning the car. So it'd be fine for that. You could then use Surfex HD as a wheel cleaner, and it's surprisingly good at around 10% ratio. 10% down to 5% is an effective wheel cleaner. 10% to 5%, or 5 to 10%, it's a really effective engine bay cleaner. You never need to go higher than 10% unless you've spilt oil everywhere, or you're degreasing an engine block or components covered in heavy oil. So there is a lot of cleaning functions. You could also use Surfex HD at a lower ratio, maybe about 3%, to clean a soft top, you know, scrub a soft top roof if a car had it. And you could use Surfex HD, very importantly, down at maybe 1% to 2% to clean interiors, you know, wipe down seats, a wet microfiber with a mist of Surfex HD wiping down dashboards and steering wheels and dirty handbrakes and leather seats, using it, spray it into the carpets, work it in, and then suck up with your vacuum. Okay, so you can do everything with one chemical, which is mad to think that just with what I've talked about there, if you went and got separate chemicals, you could have like 7, 8 chemicals: contact wash, pre-wash, a alloy wheel cleaner, a tyre cleaner, an engine bay cleaner, a soft top cleaner, you know, an interior fabric cleaner. You could have a separate chemical for them all, but they're all surfactants. And you use the dilution ratios of 1 to kind of give you everything. It's got the power at the top end, but if you get it down to 1%, it's mild. So yeah, it would be an APC and that would be it. I don't think there's compromises and this is ideal, but you could do it. Okay, in that wash category, you would also need a pile of microfiber cloths, and these are edgeless kind of cloths that don't have a sort of fluffy nap on them, you know, so you can use these on glass and they won't remove loads of fibres, although they're not a pure glass towel. These are great for interior. They're thick, so you can use them for polish wipes and wax removal. These are great all-round towels, which is why I bought them. You can't get these because I bought these direct from a manufacturer, but something like the Rag Company Edgeless 300 is virtually the same towel. These ones are just slightly thicker at 350. They're not the same as the Rag Company Edgeless 365s, which are a different format on either side. They're a bit thicker, but that would make a good choice as an all-round towel as well. So you'd have a pile of them, probably about 5 to 10 of those microfiber cloths. These cost me about 50p each, so that wouldn't be a lot of money. You would use these in the bucket to wash your car with, like a wash mitt, because we're going with bare minimum. This is still a microfiber towel. It's soft, it's safe, it's not as shaggy as a wash mitt, it doesn't have the cushioning in it and all that sort of stuff, but you could still do it, and you could still get the car just as clean. Okay, with cleaning as well, there's 2 tools you can't be without. You'd have to have a hogshair brush, really, which is a stiff kind of organic bristle, which is good because it's got a bit of bite and it can poke out stuff. It's not always the best option on really filthy cars where you like synthetic plastic, you know, brush, whatever they're called, what are those things called, brush fibres, give you more pokes. So there's better brushes in certain circumstances and there's softer brushes, but that's a good safe stiff option. You would have to have a wheelbarrow brush because you cannot clean the barrels with this, or you need a brush that can get into the barrels. So the EZ brush is the one. You would clean the face of the alloy with this. You would clean the barrel with this. You'd try and get into the arches and clean the arches with this. You'd improvise and use that to scrub a soft top. You'd have to make sure it's clean first. These would be your only 2 brushes. You'd use this for the engine bay, get a bigger one. You'd be compromised, but you could effectively do everything with these 2. A lot of you would want a tyre brush. You would just do your best. You'd scrub over the face of the tyre with this or this, and then give it a vigorous rub with an old microfiber rag, and you can get a clean tyre doing that. It's not as good as a tyre brush, but we're doing bare minimum, okay? You'd also have a £1 sponge that you could cut up and use as applicators, and you could even, these are good for like washing out arches and under the bonnet and all that. That kind of destructive cheap microfiber. Some of you will be going nuts because it's a £1 sponge. It's a sponge, it's not a Scud missile. You know, it's soft, it's good, it'll get destroyed, but it's £1. Cut some applicators up before you destroy the rest of it. We'll talk about that sponge later on because you'll use it later on. So effectively you could do all your washing with just this little subcategory of chemicals right here, and you could do everything that you need. You could do everything that you need, couldn't you? Couldn't you? What can't you do? We've got more to cover. So after you've covered all your washing, you then go into the decontamination phase, because we're talking about what products you need to detail a car, not just the bare minimum. That would be the bare minimum if you just want to wash a car, right? But you have to be able to decontaminate if you're going to detail. So you would need a clay bar, and so the Bilt Hamber white clay is a really good, it's not their most aggressive, but it's probably the most suitable 95% of the time for getting off paintwork contamination and whizzing over glass with it, getting the stuck on stuff, and it's cheap at £10. But any clay bar would do, you know, like a Maguire's clay bar, an Auto Glim clay bar, whatever, a clay bar. Could you go with a synthetic clay format thing? You could, but in a one product does all. I think this is probably more versatile and it's tried and tested. It's what professionals will use. If you go to body shops, there's no body shop I know of that use any of that synthetic stuff, but they will have clay bar. Yeah, and it's relatively affordable, and you can keep it going for ages if you want to. In that decontamination genre, you must have a hydrocarbon. You must have a hydrocarbon. Surfactant is the first chemical we've covered that you can do so much things with for water-based cleaning with surfactant. That does a lot of different functions, but a hydrocarbon is different. It's a solvent, okay? So a panel wipe solvent can be used. This is Autosmart Tardis. This can be used as a panel wipe. They say that on the thing. It'll be a strong panel wipe. So you could panel wipe with a panel and knock down any silicons and waxes on it quite heavily with this product. It's strong. You could remove tar films prior to claying. You can remove bitumen spots out of alloy wheels and wheel arches with it. Any adhesive that's stuck on the car, this stuff will melt it. Very strong. You could use it as a glass cleaner. You could use it as a post-polish wipe down. You wouldn't use it as an inspection thing, or if you're inspecting your work, you could just put a little light mist on a dry microfiber and then buff your polishing oil off with it. It's a very strong product. It can also be rinsed off the car. You must have a hydrocarbon for all of the things we've talked about, because if you encountered them and you don't have a hydrocarbon, there's no solution as far as I can see. So Autosmart Tardis, professional kind of grade, strong product. Just be careful with it. Don't spray it on anything plastic. Or you can spray it on plastic, but if you do, just wipe it off, because it's strong. Rubbers, you know, and trims, don't spray it on any of that stuff. And don't spray it on hot surfaces and let it bake on, because it's extremely strong. It goes on, it works on the contamination or greases or silicons or tar, and then you wipe it off and you can rinse it as well. That's all you need to do decontamination on a car, a clay bar and a hydrocarbon, really. Some of you will be screaming, John, where's the fallout remover? Fallout remover dislodges ferrous contamination to make claying more effective, to help clean wheels. But without it, you still clay that stuff out. So we're doing bare minimum. Fallout remover's a product which helps you get better results. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want to be without one, but we're doing bare minimum. You know, there was detailing going on before fallout removers existed, and we'd still be fine without them, but they are good. So no fallout remover. That's our decon done. Next we go on to machine polishing, because you cannot detail cars unless you have a machine polisher. You know, generally long term, there might be some cars that don't need machine polishing, whatever, but you know what I'm saying. Big part of detailing is improving swirls and tired paintwork and polishing it all up. So you'd have to have a machine polisher, and therefore you'd have to have a polishing pad, and you'd have to have an abrasive. That would be your bare minimum. So this is the into detailing. Is it a DA, what's it called? Is it DA9? Is it DA9? Well, whatever. It's the small throw entry level dual action polisher that I tend to recommend when I'm doing my polishing guides. I mean, it's just it's a small, but it's powerful enough. It's light. It's got a smaller orbit on it. You can swap plates with it, but we wouldn't be doing that in this video. It's nice to hold and use. It's got its little trigger there, and that's it. You would need a pad. The Chemical Guys Hex-Logic green pad is right in the middle of that Hex-Logic range of cutting pads through to very soft finishing pads. All of the pads in the Hex-Logic range are very soft. Even their yellow cutting pad is it's not an aggressive, stiff, mega coarse pad. That makes them a good choice for beginners, because if you're using a very stiff pad and that's all you've got, it might, on soft paint, it might not finish down. There might be some machine haze or marring or whatever. So that's a good mid-range pad that you could use a finishing polish on, or you could use a cutting compound or whatever, and it shouldn't introduce any marring. It might not always be the best option, and it might not be the longest lasting, and it might not be the best technology or whatever, but it's a very good all-round pad that's widely available, and it's still not expensive. What are they, about £10 a pad? So you could have one pad or maybe two pads if you're living life dangerously. You would need an abrasive polish that isn't a pure abrasive, not a glaze, because we're trying to do the minimum. You would need an abrasive. Now this S20 Black Swiss edition one-step compound, always have long names, Scholl Concepts. It's a high cut product that diminishes, so it's all clumped together, and as soon as you put heat into the abrasive compound, it starts to break down, and the big clumps go into little clumps, and then you get more of a finishing polish. The breakdown's quite quick actually, so you get all the cut at the start while you can still see the paste. As it starts to thin out, then you're finishing. You can cut out deep swirls with this, and you can finish cars with this. It could be suitable on a car that's in generally good condition, and you just work it and just do a set on it, and it will finish. It'll bring up the finish, or it will take out a lot of swirls. Of course, there's compromises. If you're doing this professionally and you've got a German paint with deep scratches in it, you might want wool and a heavy cutting compound and then finish out, because that's more efficient. But you can, in theory, do everything with this. It might just take you a bit longer in those scenarios. You might need to do a bit more polishing and go again. But that is a product that can do everything. Yeah, it really can. It's so viable. Half the time, if you start with S20 and a medium foam pad, more often than not, you're absolutely fine. You know when it's not going to be suitable in advance most of the time. That's all you need. You can have a little toothbrush to clean the pad out when you're after each set. Use a toothbrush. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't use the one you're using. Get a cheap one or an old one or whatever. Don't use it again after you've used it for polish. You won't have any teeth left. Okay, so that's polishing. Yeah, all this equipment that you could have instead. Now here's the cool thing. Here is the really cool thing. Next we go on to the area of protecting your car. And there's millions of product in this genre, and I thought, what's the absolute bare minimum you could ever get it down to? And I think I've got it down to 2 products that are both really good. They're 2 products, and I think you can do everything with these. So let's start with Pearl. So Pearl is a dressing, so you can dress your tyres with it. Pearl is an engine bay dressing. If you mix it down at different ratios, a bit lower than your 1-to-1 for tyres, you go 1-to-5 or something, put it in the engine bay. Pearl can be a leather dressing. Pearl can be a vinyl dressing, 1-to-5. Don't quote me on what all the ratios are. You mix it down. Pearl is very affordable. Pearl can also rejuvenate exterior trim. Pearl can dress wheel arch linings. So this dressing can do so many different functions, interior and exterior. It's clever. Some people tell me they don't like it and it's a bit fiddly to use. I don't know. No, I don't. I've never really had a problem. I think you have to be careful putting it on too rich on interiors sometimes. So like literally a little damp applicator or damp slicer sponge, and then maybe mist a bit of the pearl on there and then do the whole dashboard. You'll be absolutely fine. I think if you hurl it on, you've got this white cream and you're whacking it all over the dashboard. Maybe that's causing people some problems. But no, I don't typically have any problems with this. Now, that's a sort of, think of that as a silicon, even though it's a silicon dioxide based thing, but it's a sort of shiny thing. This is a quick detailer by label, but really this is it's probably more of a spray sealant that can just about identify as a quick detailer. So with this product, after you've washed a car or polished a car or anything, you could cover this over each panel and you'd be protected for 3 months. And it would do 3 months, and it'll be all beady and it'll be shiny and it will be ultra slick. This is like a powerful quick detailer, spray sealant-ish. Okay, so you can do it with that. In the same way, if your alloy is all clean, you could spray a bit onto the face and in the barrel and have a bit of sealant going on there. Not going to be ideal, but you could do it. You can spray over trim with this. So like on my E36, you'd have black bits of trim. You could spray over that, and then it richens it up a bit and it protects it. Or you could use the pearl if it's faded and needs a bit more visual enhancement. You could spray it over your scuttle. You can use it on glass, apparently. Feynlab replied to one of the comments saying you can, but it's not on the label. I don't like it on glass. If I was putting it on glass, I would just put 1 mist into an applicator pad, and that 1 mist will go over the whole of it. If you spray it all over the glass, you can sort of notice the filming on it. Yeah, this is definitely a less is more product. Even on paintwork, don't go spraying loads of sprays all over the panel and then making a big thick film, because when you go out in the light, you might see it. This is like a mist into the cloth, wipe in, flip the cloth, buff it all up. The material in it starts hardening, and then when it hardens off, it's incredibly slick and it's nice and shiny as well. One of the best kind of power performance detailers on the market, but some people tell me they don't want that from a quick detailer, and I get that, yeah, and I totally understand. I think I also probably agree, but in this context, this product can do it all. So like, it can do it all. It could, in theory, you know, do the quick detail and the light stuff. The only thing I wouldn't use it for is a drying aid. If the car was wet, I wouldn't go over the car and spritz it all over the panels and then wipe it, because I think that might introduce streaking. If I used it as a drying aid and the car's all wet, spray it into the cloth and then just I'd just dry the car off with a microfiber first, and then there'd be a film of water, and then I'd go back with a quick detail and mist onto the cloth, tidy up the panel, flip, tidy it up. That's another thing we haven't covered. There's no drying towel here. So you'd use one cloth, and that cloth will get saturated with water, but you use it almost like a squeegee. And you go around the car and the cloth's wet, but you just level down all the water and all the droplets and just get it so you've got that thin water film over your car. Then you go back in with more cloths to get rid of that thin thing. With a drying towel, it can obviously do a better job, but we're trying to give you the minimum that you need. And it's quite remarkable, really. If you think here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chemicals, and like 5 chemicals, and the sponge can be an applicator for the pearl and all that sort of stuff. 5 chemicals, and essentially, like, if I had to go and detail a car, I could grab those 5 chemicals and I think I'd be covered. I think I could do everything, which is crazy considering, like, we all end up with like 500, even me, you know, 500. And you'll hear a lot of times people say in the comments, you need a lot less chemicals than you people talk about, and you realise, and it is true to a certain extent. It is true. There's a bit of duplication with this. I've got lots of stuff. I've got lots of compounds and stuff. I've got glass. Well, you've got no glass polish. So you would just have to use this. And you do need glass polish. So you'd use that to polish off any films on the glass that don't come, and then you would degrease. It's not quite as good as a water-based glass polish that you can rinse off, but it would definitely cut through the films, you know, and then you can get it off. So yeah, you'd be compromised there. So I wrote a little list of all of the major compromises, like you've got no pre-wash, contact wash, you've got no glass cleaner. You go in the house and get your glass cleaner that you use for the house, but generally on the exterior you're washing the glass, and you can always clay the glass. Well, you just wipe it with a clean microfiber, and you can put a spritz of Tardis on there. On the inside, just wipe it with a clean microfiber, or a damp one first with the spritz of APC, and then dry it off, and then a little spritz of this, and you could get clean glass. Or grab one of your Mr. Muscles or other household glass cleaners could be viable. What about air freshener, John? Because you do need an air freshener. Well, yeah, but you just go in the house and like get your old Lynx or your High Karate or whatever you got. You got some budget household air freshener that stinks like a toilet. Whatever, you just go and do that, because we're doing the bare minimum. I wouldn't like to do that, but a bit of Lynx in there would be all right, wouldn't it? As long as it's not one of those mega like cheesy ones that stinks. Like no fallout remover we talked about, no drying towel, screen wash. Well, what I do is I just put a little bit of that in there. In the winter, you might be worried about it freezing and all that, and people are going to tell me, "Oh no, that's no good." But yeah, you put a bit of that in there. You know, whatever. You go and nick some screen wash off the neighbour or something. Glass polish we talked about. Yeah, we've got no coatings, no sealant or wax. Well, you know, if we had a sealant, we would still need something else. If we had wax, it might not be ideal for the tyres. If we had a coating, you know, you're not going to put a coating on the car every time you detail it. So we'd have to introduce another product, whereas that can do it all. So yeah, I think that is actually a phenomenal suite of products, and they're all really top drawer products as well. These are all winners actually, aren't they? That was a winner of a dressing, that was a winner of a detail spray, or my favourite. I don't know if that was a winner, but that stuff I've been using and recommending for years. No one recommends Scholl concepts. They're not interested in social media and social media brands, so no one talks about them. But the polishers are brilliant, and I like the fact they're not all over social media. I like the fact they're a proper like OEM kind of polish expert. I like the fact they're German. Autosmart, I like the fact they're tradie. Again, no one talks about Autosmart because they're not influencer based and all that sort of stuff. And Surfex HD, well, it's 17 quid for 5 litres, and like the concentration variation. I go through, that's the chemical I go through the most of. Where's my APC? Here. I'm down to 2.5 litres. That will last me. It won't last me as long as you think that is. That's the chemical I use the most. Yeah. There you go. So what I want you to say is, how compromised would you be using what I've just said? Because I reckon you could, the biggest compromise would be within wheel cleaning, because sometimes you need better brushes to really dig it out, and like different things, you know, an acid you might need, but you're going to have to rely on contact and more scrubbing and going again or whatever. But essentially, I think I could do everything with those. There's obviously so many good chemicals up on this shelf that I'd miss, but I could work around it to a certain extent. And Jesus, yeah, there is that argument that, and it's true, that really the results are like down to you to a certain extent, and the chemicals help you get there, and better chemicals you can notice they help you, and these are very good chemicals. But yeah, so an example would be where you're cleaning a really dirty alloy wheel, no matter what chemical you've got, if you don't go around and scrub every bit of the alloy and get in there and really spend the time to just do it properly, the less glamorous work, you're going to miss bits. And like later on, when you've driven the car and the wheel position changes and the bit that was at the bottom is now at the top, you tend to see all the bits you miss. You know, it does need a little bit of a prod to get it all off. That's an example of where it's down to you. Same with your doing the engine bay, it's your process really, because if you go in with a brush and prod it, you can miss, there's so many areas you can miss. So like getting the chemical everywhere and a bit of rinsing stuff helps, and knowing the engine and having more brushes. But ultimately it's how long you spend and how diligent you are. When you wash a car, the biggest risk when you wash cars is when you're turbo washing and you just go over a panel. Again, you come back and dry it and there's like a little bit in the corner where there was road film that hasn't come off or whatever, a bit of dirt, and you see it there, and that's the biggest thing. You miss bits of dirt, or you don't poke out on really dirty cars, you don't poke out all the seals and there's grime and stuff built up. So again, that's less down to chemicals and more down to you, and we're not often told that. We're always sort of reinforced that it's the product, but most of the time it's us. And yeah, so you could do an absolutely phenomenal job with these products. And what I want to know from you is, could you ever get it down to 5 chemicals? And what would they be? And you wouldn't be able to beat this. You would never be able to beat this. There's no way you can beat this. In terms of less chemicals, you can't beat that. You have to have a hydrocarbon, you have to have a surfactant, you have to have a silicone type dressing, and you have to have a protective product, and you have to have a pure abrasive. You ain't gonna get less than 5. Tell me if I'm wrong. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Great video. Fun. Good.